All right, so we're here for day number 6 of our 30-day challenge. And today you might notice that I don't have my normal light background. I've landed from outer space and I'm actually here in Chicago visiting my parents-in-law. Yeah, you won't have the yeah camera or anything like that, but it's still gonna be a fun one. The question I'm answering today is a question that I hear all the time, which is, how do I actually follow through and stay disciplined on the commitments that I make? It feels like I have so many things that come up on my plate, and my music so often takes the back burner, and I have a hard time following through on the commitments that I set. How do you recommend building more discipline, staying focused, staying disciplined when I have a limited amount of time and I have all these different things that are distracting me? One of my favorite concepts that I learned from one of my mentors, Eben Pagan, is this idea of inevitability thinking. And inevitability thinking is basically built on the premise that you want to set up your environment, to set up the circumstances so that the success is inevitable. It happens on its own, right? So if you can set up your environment, set up circumstances around you, the thing you want to have happen just happens automatically. Let's say, for example, that you want to get into the habit of running every morning. So if you just tell yourself, okay, I want to start running every morning, I think it's probably going to be good for me, then you might do it for a couple of days. And then on day 3, you wake up and you didn't get a good night's sleep and you're feeling a little bit tired. You just don't really feel in the mood. And then there's this battle that you have to face internally. Is the discomfort of going out for this run worth it? And it's easy to fall out of that rhythm. It's easy not to have discipline. But if you're thinking, how can I make success inevitable? How can I make it so that what I want to have happen, me getting in the habit of going for these runs, happens no matter what? One way that you can make it inevitable is by having an accountability partner, or having someone that, this is just one example, you don't have to do this, but you have a friend who you say, hey, every morning I'm going to send you a text, or I'm going to record a live video, and it's going to be when I get back from my run. And if I don't send this to you by 8 o'clock every morning, there's a check that I sent you in the mail for $1,000. And if you don't get this message from me, then I want you to cash this $1,000 check immediately. And what happens is, when you do that, if you wake up on day 3 and you're feeling a little bit tired and you're like, oh, it's uncomfortable, do I really want to do this? Basically, the question is, okay, is it worth $1,000 not to go out on the run today? And so it stacks things in the favor of doing the thing automatically, because it's more comfortable to do the thing than to not do the thing. And that's one extreme example, but there's tons of things. If you apply this to all of your goals, if you think, for example, if it comes to going for a run, it could be just the night beforehand, getting your workout clothes and setting them down in front of the door, getting your shoes and getting everything ready so that literally you just wake up and you can't walk out of the door without crossing your workout clothes. That's another way that you can, quote unquote, make success inevitable, or you can at least gear things. You can stack your environment so the thing you want to have happen happens automatically. I think this comes down to this basic psychological principle that as humans, we tend to move away from pain and we tend to move towards pleasure. If you're looking to get leverage on yourself, or if you're someone that is looking to make a positive impact on other people, and you're wondering, like, how can I be a good leader? How can I motivate and influence people to do things that help them, that are in their best interest? The way you do it for other people is the same way you do it for yourself, is you stack all of, like, first you say, okay, what's all the painful things that are going to happen if I don't do this thing? And you list out, okay, here's all the painful things that are going to happen. So if we're talking about releasing music, what are all the painful things that happen if you don't, get your music out there? One of them that you could write down is, I might end up on my deathbed at the end of my life with this deep regret, that, I didn't let my music be heard and my story died. I died with my music still inside me, right? That's one example. Another one might be, I won't be the kind of role model that I want to be for my kids or my partner or my family. If I don't do this, then I'm letting fear hold me back. And that's not setting a good example for the people I care about around me. And that's just one example. But if you can find whatever it is that's in, like, when you set your goals, you think, okay, what do I want to do? Likely, if it's a goal worth pursuing, then when you start thinking about it, there's gonna be a lot of fear that comes up. There's gonna be a lot of resistance, and that's normal. That's just kind of part of the game. If that didn't come up, then it probably wouldn't be a goal worth pursuing, because you're probably not thinking big enough. So it's normal that there's going to be fear, there's going to be resistance that kind of comes up. But if you can ask yourself those questions, okay, what are all the painful, bad things that are going to happen if I don't achieve this goal? And you list them all out, and you do vice versa. You say, okay, what are all the benefits? What are all the pleasurable things? What are all the best things that are going to happen if I achieve this goal? What kind of impacts is that going to make? And you write all those down. Then psychologically, you've really just primed yourself for success and motivation. And naturally, you're going to find yourself moving towards doing the things that move you closer to your goals. And same thing if you're a teacher, or if you're looking to help other people or be an influencer, that's the way that you can do it, is you point out what are all the painful things to avoid happening if they don't do it? What are all the positive, the pleasurable things that happen if you do it? And so it's just an interesting thing. And definitely when it comes to inevitability thinking, if you're asking yourself, how can I get myself to follow through and stay disciplined? You're probably not focusing enough on all of the painful things that are happening when you don't do the thing that you want to do. You're maybe thinking short term about, it's more comfortable if I don't do it. It's a little bit easier. I can avoid the fear if I hide, if I don't show up. And it might be focusing on the wrong thing. It's hiding, right? One of my favorite tools that I use, I call it my habit tracker. And we have a system set up with our clients and with our team where basically we have a daily habit tracker where I'll go and fill out my daily morning routine, and I'll basically make sure that I'm doing the things that I know are important for me to feel good, for me to be healthy, and to show up and perform at peak performance. Daily check-in on how I'm feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. A vision map, which just involves visualization and checking in on my goals and my mission. Meditation is a really important one. Top 3 overview, so just figuring out what are the top 3 things for today. And I think I walked through one of the other videos, we walked through the top 3 goal setting system. So this is basically my chance to check in with those top 3 goals. Drinking the green shake in the morning. This is just like a super healthy, awesome green shake that I have for breakfast and lunch. And this is another thing I learned from my mentor, Eben Pagan. And maybe I can even do a video where, I heard about the idea of doing a green shake from him, but this is through trial and error over 5 years. I've created this green shake recipe that's awesome. Our kids love it too, which is crazy. I see that as proof that it actually does taste good, that if they like it, that I think that anyone can like it. But that's awesome. Make sure I don't drink too much coffee, make sure I'm moving and exercising in the morning, and also keeping track of my sleep. So I have an Oura ring that takes track of sleep details throughout the night. And so here's how it plugs into the, what's that?
You put the data every day?
So I have an automated check-in here with Oura Ring. So I can basically come in here and import the data each day, and it automatically pulls it in. So the ring keeps track of all those things, and then I summarize it into these details from the ring. There's a lot more details that come in, but these are the ones that I found are like the most important ones to actually keep track of. And so the way that this accountability comes into play is you have a few team members on our core team. And it's interesting too. I can see when I was traveling for my most recent mastermind and I fell off the tracking and I got back and I had some lower scores. Usually it's like high 10s. So this really helps me keep a finger on the pulse of how I'm feeling and what in productivity wise, what happens when I don't get good rest and good sleep. But basically what happens here in terms of accountability is we have a few team members audit each other. Right? Eli on our team is our integrator. So he's like one of our top leaders at Modern Musician. And basically we hold each other accountable. And this is what I'd recommend doing if you have any sort of friend or an accountability partner. We do this when clients are going through the program. We tell them to get an accountability buddy, one of the other members of the program that's going through it at the same time. So you can meet with each other, you can keep each other on track. And what we do here is each of us sets individual targets for if we miss our keystone habit or we miss the tracking, how much do we want to contribute to our music fund? And so we have a music fund that we're saving up, and it's basically a pool that goes up to $10,000. And then when it hits $10,000, we have our Gold Rush Academy clients submit to win a studio session. And this is totally optional, but for me, I know it definitely motivates me. If there's money on the line and I know that I'm missing it, then I owe about $500 to the music fund. So this is just one example in practice of setting things up so that the thing you want to have happen happens more automatically. And this 30-day challenge is a perfect example of this, because the fact that I'm here right now and I literally just got off of an airplane, I got thrown up on in the flight by Willow. There's no way I would be here right now if it wasn't for the accountability. The reason I'm here right now is because, like I mentioned on day one, right? I was surrounded by this Plat Plus group, entrepreneurs who are at the next level, and I want to make a good impression and I want to connect with them. And that's just the power of surrounding yourself with the right people who encourage you, stretch your comfort zone. And yeah, so this 30-day challenge is a great example of accountability and inevitability thinking. And lastly, another example is when I found out I was going to be a dad, and at the time I was touring full time and I needed to figure out how to stay home and support them without traveling. And I knew it was either I needed to figure out how to have a successful business on my own without traveling, or I needed to go back to college and quote unquote get a real job. And so when I went out to Jeff Walker's live event and he offered Launch Club, it was a $12,000 investment. And I didn't have $12,000 saved up at that point, so I had to put it on a credit card. But when I joined knowing that this was me throwing my hat over the fence, I knew that if I commit to this and actually put this much money towards it, I have to show up. I have to do this because it's way more painful not to do that. I can't let that go to waste. And it's interesting. I think there is something psychologically if you think about it, if you got an amazing training course completely for free versus if you spent $20,000 to get the course, which one do you think you'd be more likely to actually show up and implement and get results? The one that you threw your hat over the fence and you actually have skin in the game. That's another example of throwing your hat over the fence, even if it's just like having a friend hold you accountable, where you have a $1,000 check that you give them and you say, if I don't do this thing every day, I want you to cash this check. I've heard this described before, this idea of actually choosing an organization that you don't support, like choosing the opposite political party or something, where you have to donate $1,000 to them as an extra way to incentivize yourself not to do it. So that's another idea too. But that's really one of the biggest lessons that I've learned when it comes to setting things up so that success happens inevitably. You want to get to a point where the thing you want to have happen, you could let go. You don't have to have willpower. It automatically happens because it's so ingrained in your habits. You've made it something automatic so that you don't have to exert crazy willpower. It's just a part of your momentum, right? It carries itself. And so hopefully that's helpful. And if you guys have any questions that you'd actually like to submit for the 30 days of Q&A, you can click on the link below the show notes to go submit a question. And I'm going to call it good for today so I can go spend some good quality time with my family and parents-in-law. But you guys are awesome. Hope this has been valuable. And I'll see you tomorrow.